I'm calling to order this hearing or roundtable. It's actually under the council rules, a roundtable of the committee of the whole of the council of the District of Columbia. I am Phil Mendelson, chairman of the council and chair of the committee of the whole. Today is Wednesday, November 1st, 2023. The time is 1:50 in the afternoon, and this hearing is being conducted hybrid. I'm personally in room 412 of the Johnny Wilson building, but the witnesses are participating virtually. The subject of today's roundtable, and under our rules, a roundtable is very similar to a hearing, but it is doesn't have quite this. It doesn't have the same notice, which is over 2 weeks in the District of Columbia Register, and so it's called a roundtable. The subject is, according to the hearing notice, 3 resolutions introduced by me, 2 appointments to the Corrections Information Council, 1 appointment to the Child Support Guideline Commission, and then, according to the hearing notice, 3 reappointments to the Citizen Review Panel, which deals with child abuse and neglect. However, 2 of the 3 for the Citizen Review Panel could not make today, so we will not be considering their appointments today. And the third has changed his mind about participating or being reappointed. So we're not going to deal with the Citizen Review Panel at all. Having said all that, the 3 that are before us are PR 25-410, District of Columbia Correction Information Council Governing Board, Catherine Aiken Huffman, Reappointment Resolution of 2023, PR 25-412, Corrections Information Council Governing Board, and Kichi Taifa, Reappointment Resolution of 2023, and PR 25-444, Child Support Guideline Commission, Meridel Boulevou, Reappointment Resolution of 2023. The first 2, Catherine Huffman and Kichi Taifa, were introduced by me on September 18th or September 19th of this year. And the stated purpose of these resolutions are to reappoint Catherine Aiken Huffman and Kichi Taifa, reappoint them to the Corrections Information Council Governing Board. The CIC, as I refer to it, is a 5-member governing board, which through staff visits jail and prison facilities that house District of Columbia residents, or maybe I shouldn't say residents, inmates who've been committed to the jail or to the Federal Bureau of Prisons. It's a way of trying to monitor the effectiveness and conditions of the jail as well as the Bureau of Prisons sites. The third resolution, PR 25-444, Child Support Guideline Commission, Meridel Boulevou Reappointment Resolution, was introduced by me on September 26th of this year. And the Child Support Guidelines Commission is tasked with periodically reviewing and updating the child support guidelines that the courts look to when dealing with issues such as divorce and child support related thereto. I'm looking at the hearing notice. The only other thing I want to say before I recognize the witnesses is that the record in this matter will close at 5 p.m. on Wednesday, November 15th, 2023. So that's 2 weeks from today. Why don't we bring in Ms. Boulevou, Ms. Huffman, and Ms. Taifa. What I'm going to do is hear from each of you, then ask some questions. I feel it's important that the committee of the whole have hearings on nominations that are pending before. We're not required to do it under the council's rules. We're only required to have hearings on X. But I think it's important to both for the committee to hear from the nominees and also give the public an opportunity, should there be some concern, to come forward, express their concern. Usually these hearings are fairly brief, but as I said, it's more about giving the opportunity for public testimony, as well as the committee using the hearing for a little bit of oversight of the agencies. So let's first hear from Ms. Boulevou, who's been nominated for reappointment to the Child Support Guideline Commission. Good afternoon.
Hi, good afternoon, Chairman Mendelson and members of the Committee of the Whole. Thank you so much for hearing from me today. It's a privilege to be here virtually and an honor to be considered for reappointment to the DC Child Support Guideline Commission. For children living below or close to the poverty line, regularly paid child support has the power to significantly boost their standard of living and reduce the stress they and their families face in everyday lives, and thereby improve overall child outcomes. For parents relying on the court system to set their support orders, whether by choice or necessity, a fair guideline ensures that the process results in just and appropriate orders for the children and families relying on that support and for the parents paying it. Just as important, transparency around the guideline calculations, the factors included, the standards relied on, when and how adjustments are made, encourages the perception of fairness in addition to the actuality of it, improving trust in our judicial child support system and compliance with orders. The goal of child support is, or should be, for children to receive it and benefit from it. And research shows that when obligors believe their support order is fair, they're more likely to make regular payments. So the work that the Guideline Commission and ultimately this council do to ensure all relevant factors are appropriately considered in setting a support order will impact how much support children actually receive and how many children are lifted out of poverty as a result. I've been engaged in the practice of child support law in the district for the past 12 plus years while employed at the Legal Aid Society of DC, first as a staff attorney, then as a senior staff attorney, and for the last 7 years as a supervising attorney responsible for legal aid's family law practice. I was initially hired in 2011 at the inception of the Child Support Community Legal Services Project, which is a joint endeavor between Legal Aid and Bread for the City, funded by the DC Bar Foundation. Our organizations created the Child Support Resource Center, a legal services center based at the now Parentage and Support Branch of the DC Superior Court. 5 days a week, an attorney from Legal Aid or Bread for the City is available to meet with litigants and provide legal information, advice, and same-day representation to both custodial and non-custodial parents in their support cases. I personally staffed the Child Support Resource Center at least on a weekly basis and sometimes several times a week for nearly 7 years, and now I oversee its operation and the child support cases of the 13 attorneys in Legal Aid's family law practice. During my time at Legal Aid, I've assisted hundreds, if not thousands, of custodial and non-custodial parents with questions about DC's child support guideline, some relatively straightforward and some incredibly complex. I've helped parents understand the guideline, how it takes into consideration their lives, their incomes, their families, and their expenses. I've become an expert in this area of the law, particularly as it applies to the low and no income families that Legal Aid serves, the same families who are most often dependent on the guideline to determine their child support orders. I regularly train other attorneys in child support law and actively engage in dialogue with my counterparts at OAG on specific provisions of the guideline and how they should be interpreted. My expertise prepares me well to dedicate my time over the next 4 years to service on the commission, regularly assisting both custodial and non-custodial parents in seeking fair child support orders has given me a unique perspective on how the guideline applies to both sides. The legal services lens I would bring to my reappointment would inform my role on the commission, and I believe would help the commission as a whole in its mission to evaluate the functioning of the current guideline and consider proposed changes in terms of how they would affect families as a whole, particularly those district families living in poverty. Since my initial appointment in 2017, and then particularly since the onset of the pandemic, the commission has been unable to meet due to a lack of a quorum and leadership. The commission is now seriously delayed in the essential work of updating the economic model scaffolding our guidelines and considering changes to keep the guidelines as up-to-date and fair as possible. I'm eager to return to this work as part of the reconstituted commission, and I thank you for the opportunity to contribute as best as I can.
Thank you very much. I'm going to have some questions for you, but I want to hear from the other two nominees first. Ms. Huffman? Okay, she's not here yet, so let's hear from Ms. Taifa. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Chairman Mendelson and committee members. My name is Nikichi Taifa. I am a native Washingtonian, founder and principal of the Taifa Group, and I'm also the founder and convener emeritus of the Justice Roundtable, a coalition of over 100 organizations that has worked since 2002 to advance federal criminal justice policy reform. On the local DC level, I served as chairperson and member of the DC Human Rights Commission from 2007 to 2014, and I serve as co-host with Roach Brown on WPFW's radio's Crossroads talk show, which highlights the issues impacting the incarcerated and formerly incarcerated residents of DC. I have proudly served on the governing board of the Corrections Information Council since 2019, and I seek reappointment and confirmation by this council. I would like to continue to assist the CIC in furthering its critical oversight mission to inspect, monitor, and report on the conditions of confinement in correctional facilities incarcerating DC residents, and feel my background, experience, interest, and track record on the Corrections Information Council qualifies me for confirmation. CIC's in-person site visits have been critical in maintaining connections and communications with DC residents in the DC Department of Corrections and throughout the federal system. I've also accompanied CIC staff as a governing board representative at important meetings with officials at the Bureau of Prisons, including with newly appointed BOP Director Colette Peters. If confirmed, I will continue to be consistent with my participation at CIC meetings and, when available, accompany staff on site visits to ensure that the statutory oversight and reporting mandates of CIC responsibilities are upheld. There are, Chairman, challenges that the CIC faces. Those particularly troubling for me include the continuing denial by the Bureau of Prisons to our legitimate concern regarding lack of access to residents in solitary confinement during site visits. Indeed, the CIC at one point had such access, but it was later denied pursuant to a clause in a memorandum of understanding. Not being afforded access to DC residents detained in solitary confinement hinders CIC's duty to inspect, monitor, and report in a comprehensive fashion. Another huge challenge is the refusal of the Federal Bureau of Prisons to agree to unannounced inspection visits. For obvious reasons, unannounced visits constitute one of the most effective ways to monitor the conditions of confinement and treatment of persons who are incarcerated. It is difficult to overcome these two challenges due to the stated excuse of security. At a minimum, however, the CIC should have access to residents detained in all sections of the institution, and to deny this again hinders the purpose of the CIC. Notwithstanding my personal displeasure with the Federal Bureau of Prisons' refusal to accommodate the above two issues of concern, the CIC has amicably engaged the BOP and, in my opinion, is gradually being seen as a trusted intermediary, resulting in other recommendations made by the CIC being addressed and or resolved incrementally, such as issues concerning staffing, programming, medical and mental health care, language access, grievances, deaths in custody, etc. The CIC does an excellent job in producing quality assessment and thematic reports and fact sheets addressing these critical topic areas and follows up on previous recommendations made. It is my hope that the Correction Information Councils continue constructive engagement with Bureau of Prison officials will ultimately result in a change in policy with respect to solitary confinement as well as unannounced visits. In sum, based on my longstanding history and expertise concerning issues involving incarcerated and formerly incarcerated communities, and my enthusiastic interest in continuing as a member of the CIC's governing board, I request that my nomination for reappointment to the District of Columbia's Corrections Information Council be confirmed. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Taifa. We were told before the hearing that Ms. Huffman would be late, so I'm going to proceed with questions and hopefully she will join us. Ms. Taifa, I do have your testimony. Ms. Bulavu, I don't think I have your statement.
I'd be happy to send it over, Chairman.
Please do. And I neglected at the beginning of the this roundtable to state that the record will close at 5 p.m. on Wednesday, November 15th. So if there's any member of the public watching or concerned or of interest, you have 2 weeks to submit your statement or comments. And let me see. I always ask witnesses, appointees by the council or by the mayor these questions. Do you have the time to participate fully, Ms. Bulavu?
I do, yes. My employer, Legal Aid DC, is very supportive of my participation on the Guideline Commission, as it's in furtherance of our mission of supporting families living in poverty in the district. And so I'm able to take time out of my work schedule as well as my personal life to participate fully.
And since you've served on the commission, you have a sense of the time.
I do, yes.
Ms. Taifa, do you have the time to serve or participate fully?
Yes, as I mentioned in my statement, I'm convener emeritus of the Justice Roundtable, meaning I'm no longer in that position. I don't like to consider myself retired, but I no longer work a 9 to 5, I guess you could say. So I consult, so my time is my own, and as much as possible, I participate, and when I'm available to go on site visits that are out of town, I do that as well. So the answer is yes.
Okay. And since this is a reappointment, you have a sense of how much time is involved.
Yes, I do.
Okay. I think we've been joined by Catherine Huffman.
Yes, hi. Hi, everyone. Apologies for being late.
Are you able to give your statement?
Yes, I am. If you give me just a second, I would be happy to do that.
Okay. And then I'll go back to questions.
Great. Great. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Catherine Huffman, and I am honored to be nominated for reappointment to the Corrections Information Council. I've lived in the district since 2003, and I've been a member of the CIC board since its reestablishment in 2012. I'm an attorney here in town with the Raven Group, a public policy strategy and communications firm where I work on a range of civil rights, justice, and public and environmental health issues. And I'm really honored at the possibility of continuing to work with the CIC board and staff. Just briefly, the work of the CIC provides the district with an important tool to use in ensuring that our criminal justice process truly contributes to improved public safety for all district citizens, to meaningful services and supports for people who are incarcerated and their families, and to improved efficiency and effectiveness of our governmental functions and contracts related to criminal justice. This includes comprehensive information gathering, soliciting, and reviewing input from all interested parties in order to identify needs and priorities, and much more. We receive input from local community members and leaders, family members of the people who are currently incarcerated, formerly incarcerated people who have returned to DC, council members, district executive branch officials and staff, Department of Corrections, Federal Bureau of Prisons, Criminal Justice Coordinating Council and its members, and many, many more. The results of this comprehensive and ongoing information gathering guides the CIC in establishing our priorities and areas of focus. I'm committed to playing my part in continuing this work of the CIC and continuing to strengthen the CIC's role in this way. The CIC has a great responsibility to the council and the deputy mayor for public safety and justice and the citizens of the district to provide them with information and recommendations about how best to ensure the safety and security of the district's incarcerated citizens and our entire community. This process is not easy, either substantively or logistically, but with the work of the staff, board, community, and policymakers, I believe we can work actively together to address identified problems and improve the effectiveness of many systems that are relevant to these issues. Again, thank you for the opportunity to be here today, and I look forward to answering any questions and to our next steps together.
Thank you, Ms. Huffman. And will you make a point of sending us a copy of your statement, please?
Yes, absolutely.
And as you were logging on, I was asking the other two nominees, so I'll ask you this. Do you have the time to participate fully on the governing board?
Yes, I do.
And since this is a reappointment, you have a sense of how much time is required?
That's right. Yes, I absolutely do.
So let me ask the three of you this. Do you know of any potential conflicts of interest that would affect your serving on either the Corrections Information Council Governing Board or the Child Support Guidelines Commission? And if there is a conflict or were to be a potential conflict of interest, how would you handle it? Ms. Boulevou?
I do not know of any conflicts or potential conflicts, but if there were one, I would resign as necessary.
Resign or disclose it and recuse yourself?
If that were an option, then yes, I would do the latter.
Ms. Taifa?
There are no conflicts of interest that I have, and if any should so arise, I would recuse myself from that particular issue or facility.
Ms. Huffman?
Yes, there are no conflicts that I'm aware of, and I don't anticipate any, but if anything were to arise, I would certainly disclose and recuse myself from anything that was appropriate to be recused from.
Thank you. Thank you, each of you. And then my third question standard question that I ask, and I think this was in my pre-hearing questions as well. Do you have any outstanding liability for taxes, fees, or other payments to the district, federal government, or state or local government? Ms. Boulevou?
No, I do not.
Ms. Taifa?
Thank goodness, no.
Ms. Huffman?
No, I don't.
All right, thank you, each of you. So let me ask, Ms. Taifa, in your statement, you mentioned several challenges, not being able to access prisoners who are in solitary confinement within the Bureau of Prisons, and you also indicated that you can't, when the board or the executive director are visiting Bureau of Prisons facilities, you can't have unannounced visits. Are there any other challenges that you see?
Okay, well, there are always challenges, but as I mentioned, because of the manner in which the staff of Correction and Information Council is engaging with the Bureau of Prisons, it's an amicable and it's becoming even more amicable type of relationship. So things that could mushroom, I guess you could say, into huge challenges are able to be offset, or earlier on. And as I also put in my testimony, a lot of things are being incrementally changes are being made, and CIC is on top of what is happening and ensuring that things don't get swept under the rug. So my two main challenges, which I outlined in the report, are obstacles that at this point there doesn't seem to be a remedy for, but in terms of many of the other areas, the CIC is working through them in an amicable type fashion.
Ms. Huffman, anything you would add to that, challenges that you see?
No, I mean, I would agree with the things that Nikichi just said, and also, the jurisdiction of the CIC, the number of people who are incarcerated in the various facilities is, it's a challenge in and of itself at a much sort of larger level than the CIC itself. And, so the staff, I think, with input from the board, but great leadership at the staff level, has been doing a really good job of figuring out how to prioritize, how to try to have the largest possible impact. And I think also, that's one of the things that we've been really thinking about. Our role, a central part of our role is, as has been mentioned, is that we are gathering information that can be shared out with others. And so, really thinking about how we can communicate effectively and get information out so that that others, be they policymakers like the council and the mayor and others, or be they advocates or family members or community members, that folks have the information that they need to be able to work to address the problems that they've identified. So that's an important part of how we are able to operate and have impact.
Ms. Hoffman, how would you characterize conditions in the jail? And when I say the jail, I'm including both the CDF and the CTF.
Well, it's hard to think of a jail where you would characterize the conditions as something incredibly positive. I think by their nature and by their definition, jails have a lot of problems in terms of conditions. Without sort of talking about specific examples, I think that the conditions at the jail leave a lot to be desired, certainly in terms of the full availability of sufficient staffing, in terms of consistency in access to healthcare and programming. So I wouldn't list the DC jail as a sort of uniquely difficult jail situation, but I think that's and thinking about kind of both of the facilities there, as you say, but there certainly is a lot of need for continued attention, continued efforts on the part of the staff there and the community and the council and others to try to really make change. Again, I think it also just really goes back to the large number of people who are held in jail settings. It's just very difficult to have a really healthful situation where you're dealing with that type of situation.
Ms. Taifu, do you have anything to add to that?
No, I don't think I have anything to add. I think Catherine covered my sentiments adequately.
Is do the members of the CIC, and I think the membership has been down to 3, the 2 of you plus Reverend Isaacs, and the mayor just sent down a couple of nominations, which will go before the Committee on Judiciary because they're mayoral appointments, not council appointments. Would you say that the CIC governing board works well, or the members work well together?
Yeah, well, and actually we do also have Charles Thornton is a board member as well. He's actually the chair of the board, and Reverend Isaacs is the executive director. So yes. Well, Nikichi, do you want to go first? Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say you and I work very well together, and we both work very well with our chair, Charles Thornton, and we have a great relationship with the staff as well. I do know when I did first come on board, there were several other members of the governing board who are not currently active. So I would welcome whenever those appointments, mayoral appointments, are made, so we can have a fuller complement. But with the complement that we have, I think that we have been consistent. We have been demonstrated our interests and used our skills to help to move things forward.
Ms. Boulevou, I think you, as I recall in your statement, you said there aren't enough members to have a quorum. So that would suggest that the commission isn't working that well. Can you say more?
I know that we met routinely for, I think, throughout 2018 and into 2019, at which point A couple people dropped off or weren't reappointed or stopped coming. I think we had a community member that wasn't really able to come, and the chair resigned. And so the committee, despite the efforts of a CSSD employee who was the staff member trying to move things along and helping to comply with the Sunshine Act and get the meeting scheduled and noticed and all of that, there just weren't sufficient members to be able to make a quorum for us to proceed with our work. And then the pandemic happened, and there have been no meetings since then. So the Guideline Commission has not been effective or functioning, but I'm hopeful that with my reappointment and what I understand is OAG's efforts to help identify potential candidates for the mayor to appoint, that we'll be able to resume work shortly.
So that's probably the most critical issue before the commission right now. And when were the guidelines are supposed to be reviewed and updated periodically? So when was the last review due that I think you said had been missed?
I believe it's supposed to be every 4 years. So if I'm remembering correctly, the last revision was in 2016. So I believe it should have been by 2020, and that hasn't happened.
Has not happened.
That's right.
Okay. So task one is to get a quorum in or full membership, and then to review and issue recommendations for the guidelines.
Yes, that's correct. At this point, one of the most critical things that the commission will have to do is to revisit the economic model that provides the underpinnings of our guidelines. Right now, that's the grid that actually looks at what share of income a child should be able to benefit from the combined incomes of both parents, and that differs at different income levels. Amount of support a child with parents earning very low incomes or no incomes is different than the share of when parents are earning more money. And that model is at this point pretty out of date. The commission had started the process of contracting with a provider to update that model based on current conditions in DC. And that unfortunately was unable to move forward because the commission was unable to meet. But that will be the next most pressing issue once we're actually able to meet.
Yes. I'm actually taking some notes here. There's a council member who's also supposed to be on the Guidelines Commission. And with the change in committee leadership at the council, I have a resolution in that would the council would be appointing Brooke Pinto to be a member. So we will have 2 resolutions before the council, yours and Councilmember Pinto, this month, November. At least that's the plan. And I might contact the mayor's office of talent and appointments and just push them a little bit.
That would be welcome. Thank you very much.
Give me just a second. I don't have any other questions for any of you. I want to thank each of you. You're all up for reappointments. I want to thank all of you for your service so far. These are just examples. These commissions are just examples of ways that government gets its work done, and they're important. If I remember correctly, the Corrections Information Council was originally constituted as part of the Revitalization Act Congress passed in 1997, 1998. And yes, it was restructured around 2012. And it's meant to make sure that our correctional system, I'm saying correctional, is supposed to be positive in terms of reducing recidivism and helping our inmates. And of course, the Child Support Guideline Commission is important as well to ensure a greater likelihood of full support for children. So again, thank you to each of you. If any of you want to supplement your remarks, I'm not saying you have to, please do so within the 2 weeks. The two of you who did not give me statements, please get those in. We'll include those in the record. And again, my thanks to you. And with that, I'm going to bring this hearing or roundtable to a close. The record again was open for 2 weeks until 5 p.m. on Wednesday, November 15th, 2023. The time is 2:25 p.m. Thank you again. And this hearing or roundtable is adjourned.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.